Welcome to Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursdays. My name is Jesse Ott, and I have an exciting guest today, Charles Joly, co-founder of Crafthouse Cocktails. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so quiet. I'm so...
I'll get more celebratory as we go on. When the caffeine kicks
exactly.
in, caffeine or cocktails kick in. One of the two.
Or both. It's a
Whichever
wonderful
goes
combination.
First. Yep.
Yeah. You know, I have affinity towards Charles because of my grandfather Needles from Missouri. His name is Charles, and if I had been a boy, my name would have been Charles.
There you go. My grandpa was too, so we got that in common.
There we go. I guess that's kind of what we'd call a big surprise.
Not creative parents.
Yeah, I was named after my grandma Jessie instead.
Well, that worked out. It avoids confusion growing up.
Yes, exactly. So where are you calling from, Charles?
I am from my home bar in Chicago, in the Logan Square neighborhood.
Where is that?
That is on the northwest side of the city. So maybe
like
people
north
visit
of Wrigley?
Chicago. It is just south of Wrigley, but west of Wrigley, a couple miles. So yeah, great neighborhood. If you're visiting the city and you come in, you drive into downtown or take the train in, your train goes right through our neighborhood. It's a great, vibrant, tons of great bars, some of the best bars in the city, some of the top restaurants in the cities, and it's beautiful green space, wonderful. I tell people all the time when they come into Chicago, you're going to be downtown, you're going to do your loop, you're going to hit Fulton Market, and then you'd need at least one, if not two nights out in our neighborhood. It's kind of like going, if you're in Manhattan, it's like not going over to Brooklyn. You miss an entire slice of the city, you know?
We love going to Chicago. My wife and I we didn't go last year, but the 2 years before we went, and we had a blast. We went to concerts at Wrigley Field. It was really fun.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Great place to see.
Yeah, we'll have to get up there.
Yeah, give me a shout.
I'm liking this back bar I'm seeing for the audience. He's got three tiers of like bottle shots, and they're all lit up, and I wish you'd come build that in my office here because I really need it. Bottles are stacking up everywhere, and I need to showcase
Never
them,
enough
you know?
space. That's about
good.
a third of the bottles that you can see. Cabinets are full, and another bar upstairs. So I just got done building this. It was a labor of love, but this is my lab. Since I no longer am in brick and mortar bars as a bartender, I need a place to not only entertain from, but to work on new cocktail recipes and shoot content and do whatever else I might be doing. So it's nice to have a proper bar. A good excuse to have friends over to come and drink some of this booze. I can't do it all myself.
Yeah, exactly. What do you call them? Test monkeys?
Somebody's
testing out new recipes.
You got to be your guinea pigs, you know?
That's right. You got to get someone to do it.
Yeah,
for sure. So are you from Chicago
originally? Born and raised in Chicago on the near south side, right in the shadow of our other baseball stadium, Comiskey Park, where the White Sox play. Forever Comiskey. I don't care what branding or corporate name they slap on it, but yep. So basically, if you're at Wrigley and you jump on that train and you head due south, that's the same train, subway, L line, hits both parks.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple times a year, there's a crosstown classic where the Cubs and Sox play each other, and sometimes they'll play at each other's stadium in the same day, and people will watch one game at Wrigley, jump on the train, take it over to the other stadium. Kind of a fun day.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's cool. So you're living near Wrigley, but grew up over by the White Sox.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't say
where does
I
that
don't
put you?
necessarily live near Wrigley for sure. Like that's a little much closer to the lake. We're out a little further west. Baker Park is the next neighborhood up the blue line from us. That's the kind of a neighborhood a lot of people end up in as well. Some great classic bars there. The Violet Hours there, and the original Big Star, and some other great places.
Okay, very cool. So,
yeah.
So are you trying not to answer the question
What's the
if you're
question?
a
Oh
Cubs
no,
or a White Sox fan?
oh no, it's no, not even a question. No, I'm a Sox fan all day long.
Okay, I
It's
figured.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. My first.
from the South Side.
Yeah, no, you can't. I worked there when I was in high school. I worked at the stadium. I, lied about my age on the application. So sorry. Hopefully the feds aren't listening to this, but I was 16 several years in a row. They never checked. You're a kid and you want to make a couple bucks and you got to, you need spending money. You got to get out there and do what you got to do. So,
Yeah, what did you
yeah,
do there?
it's just an usher, you know, you given,
I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
they didn't
kids,
care too much.
we had no idea what the hell we were doing. You know what I mean? We were warm bodies and barely that. It was a good time though. Um, it's a bunch of kids screwing off at the baseball stadium, eating churros for lunch, and trying to tell adults what to do.
Yeah, I've had that experience at the Lady Gaga concert. We were on the floor, and they really need ushers that kind of know what they're doing if you're going to be on the floor, and make sure people are kind of staying in their spot, because
Yeah,
it makes it kind of miserable. I mean, not miserable, just irritating, right? Like,
yeah,
you kind of have to have some of that, but only in the uprights, and all that is not as hard, I would say, as trying to manage a bunch of drunk people, or people God only knows what they do before they got there at the Gaga concert. It was kind of messy, but it was a great concert. Anyway, I digress. So you're out of high school. So what happens next?
oh
What's
God,
your
lots
Yeah, we're
happened
going
then.
way
I'm
back.
I'm old.
We
Yeah,
got time.
I went to college. I did not go to college for bartending, but here I am. Uh, left school. Was not quite ready for all of that. Met some musician friends when I was in college. Came back to the city and played music in bands for a bunch in my 20s, and stumbled into the bar world at that time as a great job. You made good money. Had flexible hours. It was fun as fuck. And you could still play shows and practice and do all these things. It just turned out that I was a better bartender and hospitality professional, I guess, if you will, than a guitar player. So when the time arose for me to make a decision and either go full time into hospitality or carry on, I had to part ways with music and take the insurance and a little bit more stability on that. Um, but that was in my, I don't know, mid to late 20s. Fully made the move, but I've been in hospitality my entire adult life. As soon as I was legal, I accidentally started working in bars. So
Accidentally.
it was an accident. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people stumble into it.
Is there a story you
Oh
want to share?
yeah, 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 for sure. I was out with a bunch of friends at a nightclub in Chicago, a big underground nightclub. It's called it's still, but it was around for years. Legendary club called Crowbar. This is in the '90s. And 2 o'clock in the morning, ran into a buddy from high school. I was probably in a similar state to some of the patrons at the Lady Gaga concert that you were speaking about. And I was like, I'm like, yo, Clippy, good to see you, brother. Like, I need some work for the summer. Like, you guys need a hand here or whatever. Scribbled out an application, and 27 years later, here I am.
So that's how it started.
It's literally how it started.
And so what was it like to be in the back bar at first?
Yeah, I barbacked for
Behind
years.
the
I
bar.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I recommend it to anyone. I've done every job there is. I bust. I've been a barback. I was a barback for many years. Bartender, of course. Manager. uh, was both. Hands-on manager, operations back of house. I've done all the jobs that owners have done. Hosted. I've done. Had to pull shifts in the kitchen over my career, as anyone in this business, eventually will have to do. But I think bar backing, it's key. I think it's important. If you ever want to manage people, if you ever want to run your own venue, if you want to open your own venue, if you want to be a consultant, you need to do all those jobs. You need to understand where everyone's coming from. You need to know that the bar backs your bus team, your dish pit, like that's the oil in the machine. Like those are the people that are invaluable. It's not the higher profile, prettier jobs, if you will, that make, that people think they want to do. Like there's a stack of resumes always waiting for bartenders. And I'm not saying that a great bartender is not dispensable, but I will 100%, go to the mat for an awesome crew in a dish pit over a cocky bartender any day of the week, because that's the stuff that'll seize up your whole operation. That's the stuff that quietly keeps it running at any great bar or restaurant, any great hospitality place. You go in hotel, whatever it is, you get into the bowels of those places and you see what's going on back of house, and that's the real magic. Those are the true unsung heroes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hope that the restaurant industry is kind of recovered. It seems like they have, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of new people entering into it that are, still learning the ropes of it all. But I mean, I don't know. What are you seeing in Chicago? Is it getting kind
We've
of
had
humming back
a
to normal?
lot of great new things have opened. Chicago rebounded really nicely. We've had some exciting openings in terms of F&B. We lost some places, of course.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve for young folks getting into the industry. The cost of things is more expensive, so it's a different environment. People are getting paid more, which they should be getting paid a living wage, and especially in big cities because you need it. But things are disproportionately more expensive as well, so it becomes even harder. There's a lot more job hopping, I think, that goes on. It's always been an issue, but like I think more than ever, people move from place to place. But I think that's on a great team and great management, and I think some of the industry veterans, to some extent, to kind of Sherpa these folks in and take them under their wing and teach them what they know. And it's on management as well to recognize when people are doing a great job and reward them for that, or make changes when you need to. It's not easy. It's not like people aren't lined up to do all these jobs necessarily, but Chicago's great. We're a great hospitality town, always have been. We're a thirsty town, we're a hungry town, and it's great. I mean, I generally have wonderful experiences when I go out. Same thing if I'm traveling, if I'm in New York or wherever I go. I mean, you might feel it a little bit here and there, but yeah, we're not hospitality's not going to stop.
Yeah. I have heard it's pretty expensive
I think
for the
everywhere in
cost of.
general. I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, it's you can just it's just. I mean, the math is clear and black and white on whether it's rent or anything in the stores or anything you're doing. So, cost of goods to operate our properties, real estate taxes. It's all somebody's getting. I don't know who's getting rich, but
Somebody hits.
I do know who's getting rich. But that's a different podcast. We want to
Yes.
talk about that. That's a whole nother talk. But we're not going to get it. We're not going to mix our. We're not going to talk politics or religion in this podcast because we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have time for that. We got to talk about you. So,
What you got?
so you started
Sure.
you started out at Barback, you said, after the music thing kind of didn't
Yeah,
pan out.
yeah. Barback. Maybe moved up to bartender. Barback for years. Moved up to
So,
bartender. Yeah.
what was it like when you? Because for me, I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and if you threw me behind the bar, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I'm a terrible mixologist. I really am. And so
Yeah.
for people to just be like, yeah, you just jump back in. I mean, did you kind of make cocktails here and there to get comfortable with it when you were bar back
A very
or did you
different
just,
time. Very different time. And I think there's two different things. Like if you say if somebody threw you behind a bar, you'd be a terrible mixologist. I think that does not make you a terrible bartender because I think like the difference there is maybe just to focus on the craft of making the cocktails. Maybe you have a deeper lexicon of recipes in your head. Maybe spent more time on technique. Maybe you've spent more time on learning spirit history. That's the craft side of bartending. That is kind of the craft cocktail side of things. Bartenders, you can be taught to mix 1+1 drinks, highballs and basic mixed drinks and make some basic shots, how to properly pull a beer. That's all, and that's a real skill as well. But I don't want a mixologist who is not also a great bartender, because the great bartender is the gift of gab. It's the hospitality. It's the smiling
Yeah.
face. When you walk in the bar, it's understanding when a couple wants you to come in and have a little intervention and chat them up when they're on an awkward date, or leave them the heck alone when they're on a great one. Whatever it might be, that out of town traveler by themselves, giving them that extra few minutes of your time goes a long way. That's a great bartender.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
I could teach anybody how to make cocktails. That's technique. That's a skill, right? You want to learn how to whatever, speak Spanish, play piano, like those are skills. And you can raise them to something that's very elegant and even flirts with art, right? You got to have soul though, and that's what a great bartender. Oh yeah, did all that. Still, worked my way up, and eventually, couldn't leave well enough alone. Stumbled into management. Worked with a small bar group in Chicago. We ended up opening 7 different venues around the U.S. I became their operations director, scouted cities with them, did everything the owners did. It was the 3 owners, and then I was the next in line in terms of that. Moved to those cities, did the full build outs on the bars,
Fun.
sat and I mean I did everything. Sat and with a piece of square grid paper and laid out the bars, drew them, gave them to handed them off to architects and the builders to turn into something that they can actually build. So we had functional bars. This is all pre cocktail renaissance in the US too. I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is this is the early 2000s, that all this is happening. We in 2007 opened up, and truly accidentally, we did not understand that there was going to be this massive cocktail renaissance that we are still on the wave of in 2025. We got a space in downtown Chicago, and part of it was going to be this nightclub that the owners wanted to open, and they were going to cut off this chunk of it, and they're like, let's open, what are we going to do, what concept are we going to put in this space? And we're like, let's do cocktails, like really, like hands-on, thoughtful, seasonal cocktails and a great food program. And that it became a bar called the Drawing Room, and it accidentally was one of the first cocktail bars in the city that was like a full-fledged cocktail bar. Opened up the same month as the Violet Hour over in Wicker Park, which is still around. One great cocktail bar that was founded by Toby Maloney, great bartender out of New York. And those 2 bars, along with a handful of others that popped up very shortly afterwards, became the founding or for the foundation, I guess, of the Chicago cocktail scene, that would grow into what it is now, 18 years later.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty cool. So you kind of got in on the ground up with those concepts.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. It was kind of first and a half generation. Like I said, unwittingly, we were not chasing any trends at that time. We had a small and very well connected community, people I'm still friends with to this day, talk to all the time, hang out with all the time. We've stayed in touch. Our Chicago community's been very tight, and we supported each other. We learned together. We traveled together. Uh, Competition was, yeah, with and against one another. We learned, all that. Um, It was great. It was great. And then, that's actually where it was at that place in like 2011 at the Drawing Room that like our idea for our launching a bottled cocktail came from, because of guests kept asking for recipes and asking, it was that at that time, these very new, everyone in 2007, everyone coming through the door, for the most part, people had not had like really cocktails that were given the attention that your food was, in terms of ingredients, in terms of balance, in terms of temperature, texture, type of ice you used, the presentation of it, everything, and they loved it. I mean, there's just become this huge trend, right? But it's this huge movement. I'd say it's not a trend at this point. It's pretty cemented, but they were always like, I can't get these at home, and they don't taste the same when I make them at home. I'm like, that's because it's our job to make them for you. You know what I mean?
That's right.
You can learn to do this at home for sure, but we do it day in and day out for, 10, 12 hours a day. So of course ours are going to be more dialed in. That's our job. So we always write recipes down, and people ask and ask and ask. And one day a regular called and they're like, I'm making this cocktail. They gave me the recipe at home. It's not coming out quite right. Like, what can I do? And myself and one of the owners talked that night. They're like, man, we should bottle this stuff.
Yeah.
And that is the actual way in which Crafthouse Cocktails was born. And did 2 years of R&D on that, and, to get that off the ground. And in that time, I moved on from the drawing room and went to go work at the aviary while we were still also working simultaneously on this bottled cocktail project. Did a bunch of wonderful things at the aviary, learned so much, met some amazing people, and yeah, kicked off our cocktails there in 2013.
Can I back up just a
Yeah,
second? Back
please.
to the drawing room?
Yeah,
Okay.
do it.
You mentioned you had food at the drawing room.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
great
was
chefs.
that in terms of the creation with the chef and the bartenders? Like, did the chef have a menu and you created cocktails, or was it sort of a joint effort together to
Yeah, where
create a
was
menu?
key. I would say that the kitchen has the heaviest influence on my style to this day. Seasonality, ingredients that might, belong in the kitchen. And that would, because those were the best palettes in the building. Those were the best palettes available to me. They were the most skilled with flavors, ingredients, techniques, were the chefs. To us kind of learning, kind of burgeoning bartenders. So the chef and I worked super closely. We were very good friends. Chef by the name of Nick Lacasse, very talented chef, worked at award-winning restaurants before that. We were fortunate to have him with us. Young guy. We both kind of grew up very blue collar, so we hit it off well. But we would go to the Green City Market. It's a huge farmers market down in Lincoln Park on Wednesday mornings, and you go early, and before all the strollers show up and our kids are running around, it was a lot of chefs from the best restaurants in the city are walking around that market, talking to the local purveyors, seeing what is ultra seasonal stuff that might be in for a couple of weeks, and that's it. Where that stuff was going to get into syrups or infusions or whatever. We did a series called At the Bar, and that bar was not much bigger than the bar I'm sitting at in my house right now. It's like an 8 seat, and it sold out. It would sell out months in advance, and we would just do a special menu um, for that. And he would come up with a whole new menu, and we'd do one dinner seating. That was it, 8 seats, and I'd do a whole new cocktail menu for it. And we'd flip it every time, like ultra, like hyper seasonal. But
Wow.
like we listed, I mean, 2007, the heading on our cocktail menu was culinary cocktails. We weren't trying to be chefs. That was just kind of, that's what we were inspired by. Like, I think, like, I hadn't seen that written before that time. I don't know if we accidentally coined that phrase, but it sure felt like we did. We were not borrowing that from any place else that we saw. Where you had at the same time happening in London and New York, a different style of cocktail happening, beautiful cocktails, but very much that speakeasy culture that was rooted in these very almost strict classics that were like, this is the way a bartenders, and it needed, the industry needed some sort of boundaries and regiment, because this is so new to the world at large. People are walking in still and they're like, what do you mean you don't have Red Bull? What do you mean you don't have whatever it was? They couldn't wrap their head around it. And they're like, what do you like? Why does this cocktail take 3 minutes to make? Whatever. You're like, well, so we're squeezing everything fresh. We're doing it. What a fucking egg white in my cocktail. What are you doing? It was all very new at the time. Stuff is passe now, right? It's an expectation now. But it's but you had, like, I don't know, the New York bartending style was like the milk and honey style, which is awesome, and has put out some of the best bartenders in the world. But it was like that, very, very inspired by the classics. It felt very throwback to the Deco era and also Prohibition era style of cocktail. And we're influenced by, we know our classics inside and out as well. But we didn't, instead of wearing vests and bow ties, we actually we wore chef jackets, and that was a thing behind our bar. Like, when you became a lead bartender, you earned your chef coat, and that's, we take you and go get it tailored for whoever that was, and it was like kind of a big day for that bartender when they're like, okay, you're ready, You can work this shift by yourself. You could train somebody. You got your chef's coat.
That's
And that
cool.
and that it happenstance, that I ended up at the Aviary, which was another bar that obviously was very inspired by the kitchen owned by one of the greatest chefs in the world, by Grant Achatz and the Alinea Group. So it kind of worked out, it kind of maybe it was a natural progression. We did not fancy ourselves chefs. Don't get me wrong, like behind the bar. It just happened to be the angle that we took, and it's the way we learned. It's the way we worked with and manipulated ingredients.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that you said New York and which other city? LA?
That's London. I would say, like London.
London.
Really, I think
More classics.
you can
That's cool.
trace the roots of I guess, the second golden age of the cocktail, which was, kicking in the really early 2000s to London, and then bubbling into New York, and then hitting into Chicago and San Francisco and Los Angeles. It's going to always be the biggest metropolises that hit those trends first, typically, simply because of you have the volume of people to support a really niche movement at that time, and then allows it to get
That's
exposed to
true.
enough people, then bubble over into slightly smaller cities. And there's always, and I'm not saying there weren't things happening in pockets here and there, but that's it. By and large, that's kind of what the theme tends to be when these things happen.
So you're at the aviary and you're doing a side hustle with the Crafthouse Cocktails. So let's go there. So you're working with a team at this point on these cocktails?
Team, no.
No.
Me and my business partner, Matt Lindner. It was me and Matt. And we were figuring it out. We had no idea. We're like, how come nobody does this? And you know what? Like, the facilities that we need to produce these things, it's what you call co-packers in the industry, because when you start a company like this, you don't buy a factory and a canning line and huge tanks. It'd be exorbitant. It would cost millions of dollars to do that. So like, you use facilities that already exist. You bring them a recipe, you oversee the recipe, taste with them, you make sure that they can make it to your spec. No one could make it to our spec. We designed these beautiful cocktails and no one had seen it. They all had ways that they wanted us to cut corners and do shortcuts. And they're like, what do you mean you want to make simple syrup in our factory? No, like, we use corn syrup. That's how we do this. Like, well, you got to put these preservatives in there. You just use this flavoring. Why do you want to get juiced ginger? Just use ginger flavoring. And we're like, well, that's why they all taste like shit. That's everything that's on the market right now. Because to that point, everyone was making drinks to taste like a cocktail. They weren't making cocktails. And that's a lot of what you see out there even to this day. That distinction is important, though. And you're going to make liquid to simulate a cocktail, or you're just going to make a big batch of cocktails and then put it in a small container. So that's what we were doing. And there was no one doing it in a proper way at that time. It was like really low bar, bad premixes that looked like Gatorade. Any Girl was out, which was expensive at the time for what it was. Ended up selling for a bunch of money. One of the early celebrity brands. But if you tasted it, like, no offense, Skinny Girl, but like, it's not great. I mean, yeah, you know what? No offense. Yeah, no offense. It's not great. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And especially by
You're a
today's
bartender.
standards.
You're entitled.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, why would you? It's at the
Yeah.
time though, it was better than anything else that was out there. It's a little bit more honest. So we're like, we don't care about this. And that's the difference, I think, as well. We're the first brand to come out and do it from bartender's perspective. Like, we had no money. We had no experience in making this at scale. We had no marketing experience for what they would call, a consumer packaged product, as they call it. We didn't know what the hell that was. CPG,
Right.
consumer package. Like, we know what that was. Like, truly, no idea about the distribute. We were purchasers. We bought booze for our bars. We knew how to make cocktails. I knew how to make you one drink when you walked in.
Yeah.
I knew if I was throwing a party and had a buyout, I knew how to batch up a bunch of cocktails so we can serve quickly. And we just applied that and we did it. So we ended up in Canada, outside of Montreal, in rural Montreal, at a little cider house with these two brothers that took a risk, and we're like, yeah, we'll figure this out. Come on. And we made a mess of their facility, and had made some really delicious cocktails though. And then, it's been now, shoot, we hit the market in 2013. None of the stores knew what to do with us. They're like, what? They're like, this is delicious.
Where do
They're
you
like, we don't
merchandise it? Where do I put it?
section. There was no
Yeah,
like, which is hard for people to think about now. Especially if you were not of age, and in liquor stores in
right.
2013, which is now 12 years ago, that's a lot of people would not have been shopping back then. They're like, what do you mean
Dailies
there?
would have
What do you,
been like the
yeah,
only thing out there, right?
right. Like, what do you mean there's no RTD section, which are now massive
Yeah,
aisles or huge billboards of sections in the stores. So there was nothing. Yeah, it was like a Cuervo margarita mix or a mudslide mix
yeah,
or Skinny Girl. They're like, this is not any of those things. So, anyways, we figured it out, and the industry caught up real quick and figured out it was going to be a thing. And about 4 or 5 years later, started to trickle in, and when that pandemic hit, it exploded.
yeah.
And everybody and their brother had a brand. So, and now the cream's kind of rising to the top. As happened, we saw it in craft beer. You see it in whatever it might in craft spirits and boutique spirits. Like, and people see green, and they all chase it. Which is, I'll say, as someone who's been in it for you know 12 years now, in terms of that part of the business, that's a fool's errand. So I've seen it from the bartender and from the purchaser's perspective so many times. People see a brand like Grey Goose launch back in the day and then sell for a bunch of money, and then all these vodkas pop up in
Right.
similar looking frosted bottles, and everyone's trying to be the next one. I promise, it's like a musician's dream. If you are only going in for the glory and not because you love to play the music, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So, boy, you better like what you're doing, because it's going to be a long road and arduous.
It's a long haul. It takes time. Brands just don't build overnight. I mean, I know it's
I do not.
a little bit of a reality to some degree when some of these brands take off like on TikTok, but back then it wasn't. It was brick and mortar and word of mouth and building it one city at a time.
Yeah, sure.
So how did so you ended up working with the co-packer in Canada. You're still working with them today?
No, no, no. We've been a bunch of
But
different places since then.
okay.
We are now produced just outside of St. Louis, so we have a little bit more of a central location to
Yeah, that's good.
distribute, and we got to ship this stuff around the US. So we were recently, and before that, we were in Napa Valley, which was nice to travel to, but starting on the West Coast, then you got to ship to New York is
Yep.
not great logistically. So we've learned a lot. We've got some more efficiencies in. We're continue to become more green as we go with our packaging and with our shipping and everything else. Yeah, we've learned a lot in 12 years.
So how many states are you in?
Geez, I don't even know offhand. It's always in flux. We're always bringing on new states. We're not in all 50 states, nor do we want to be. We don't have the team nor the capital to support 50 states. If you're a small brand, the biggest thing I could tell and recommend to you is to stay small and focused in terms of your footprint, and do not get lured by the very tempting prospect of being a national brand like that. It's a quick route to go broke, and you're better off being in one, two, three places, and doing really well there, proving your concept, than you are doing mediocre in 20 spaces. So we're in, like, I don't know. It's got to be 20 now, though, because we have some national partnerships with some great chain brands, and where we need to be available in multiple places, multiple states, whether it's hotels or theaters or United Airlines or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, what a great idea to be in arenas.
Yeah,
Perfect.
easier said than done. We know it's a great idea. We know we're the best product for you when you're at a basketball game or a concert or whatever, but very, very difficult for a small brand to play in that
Yeah. Yeah.
court. There is a lot of competition and some very, very deep pockets that fight for those spots. We do have some of them, and there's
Consumers always lose in that situation.
They do, because it's always the bottom line, what sells best. And for the most part, there are exceptions. We are used in some incredible places. And when you see us, you can basically you see us in a venue, whether it's like a theater group or a five-star hotel, there's a great beverage director there who cares, because there's something that was a little bit less expensive that they could have used.
Right.
These beverage directors, folks that are doing it, like who really do it, we hear it all the time. We tasted through 150 different RTDs. We whittled it down very quickly, lost 130 of them, got it down to whatever, and then and you guys made the cut at the end of the day. And that's the biggest honor, when you have somebody who has good palate, who is discerning, and they're like, you know what, this might be 20 cents more a can or whatever it is, and we want the best for our guests. So it's always nice, and that does exist. It's just not always the case, for
Right.
sure. But it's, we love those wins, and we're great partners with our partners, and we're very hands on, and that's something that the big companies lose on. Like, there's no red tape. Here we are. I'm sitting here
Yep.
chatting with you. Somebody needs something, you send something through our Instagram. As many, we do nice, we do it's a real business. But you send a message to Instagram, me and Matt get it. We're on the other end of the line. That's really us shooting. It's not, we don't have some
That's
huge
cool.
marketing team, or, and I think it's in there, 12 years in, that's just it. The story's been real. It's been, people like want to manufacture authenticity. Like, we're nothing. We're nothing but authentic. We're as authentic as it gets, like, for better or worse. Like, that's it. A couple of dusty
Yeah.
bartenders and restaurant owners, and just kind of doing what we love. So,
Yeah. Well, you gotta love that. Doing what you love. That's pretty
well,
incredible.
that's yeah. No, you can't. That's all you can ask for, I suppose. Not bad.
Was there any big surprises when it came to the formulation of, being behind the bar? I mean, you obviously talked about flavors versus real juices. Is there anything else that, in terms of the formulation that, um, you want to expand upon or talk about at all? Because I find that to be pretty fascinating.
Sure. I mean, I think it's just, we just don't monkey with the recipe as much as possible from the single cocktail. So if we lay out everything that's in, if we were to give you the recipe to our big batch, it's maybe an ingredient more than what it would be if I was making it at the bar. You're talking, these things are 5, 6 ingredients. That's it. We don't need to use any preservatives. We do not use any chemical preservation whatsoever. Our juice is pasteurized, so that, like, stops, that keeps everything shelf stable. We don't water down our cocktails. We have them at real bar ABV. You'll see on our cans that everything's slightly different. That's just whatever I make the drink, and then we test the ABV, and whatever the ABV is, that's what it
That's
is.
what it is.
So we don't water everything down. When you see a brand that's all 7, 8% across the board, no cocktail you get in a bar is 7% alcohol. And there's certainly three of them are not, three different drinks side by side are certainly not the exact same ABV. So that's the difference. If you drink, a couple cans of ours, you're gonna get you might get a little giggle juice, but it works as intended. But so in terms of formulation, that's what I do for a living. In terms of, balance, and creating cocktails is what we do. um the hardest thing, like, getting this stuff out there in front of people, and the marketing of it is the real hurdle.
Yeah.
Standing out from the competition is the hurdle. Managing the distribution network is the hurdle. It's a very complex and tangled web, the actual business side of it in the United States, with some archaic laws that go back quite literally to prohibition, and that still affect the alcohol industry today, with each state being run in its own way, and doing what, like, in their own way, with some similarity, some overlap, but each state in the United States is like a different country. And when brands from outside of the U.S. first come to they have a rude awakening,
They sure do.
because it's like, if you want to open 50 states, it's just about the same as going to Europe and opening 50 countries that are sitting next to one another. It's not a whole lot easier. There are some um, efficiencies that will carry state to state, but you got to deal with everybody's a different distributor, different unique. Even if they're the same name of the company, they're operating on their own.
Yeah. It is kind of trial by fire, isn't it? I mean,
It's not
it's
the
it's
sexy
pretty
part of the
difficult.
industry, and that's
It's
it. And
not.
at the end of the day, it's like it's the boring stuff. I don't want people who are enjoying our cocktails. They don't, if they ask about that stuff, great, but that's the boring stuff. That is not the fun part for me.
Yeah.
Getting with guests, drinking a cocktail, being in the events and the experiences in which they enjoy our cocktails. That's the fun part. If we're at somebody's baby shower or wedding or Tuesday after work, whatever it is,
Right.
it doesn't matter, or, baseball game or, again, you're jumping on a plane or in your hotel room. We love to be part of that, offering what we do, what our skill set is, and is having a great cocktail anytime you want one when you can't come and sit with me at my bar here.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to use cans? Because you mentioned bottles earlier.
Yeah, we started in just it's evolution of the brand. We started the brand in 750 milliliter, or like a standard, what would be a standard alcohol size bottle or wine bottle. That's a seven. Those are 750 mils with a snap top enclosure, kind of like a gross beer bottle. And that was kind of what set us apart and made people understand that we were something different at the time when we launched, that we were not like, people, stuff was not, there was nothing else out there. Like I said, that was the format. It felt a little more premium, like like you treat us like you were grabbing a bottle of wine to go to a party. You could also bring a bottle of cocktail. And then we said smaller formats that were in glass bottles as well. We would switch to aluminum eventually for a few reasons. Much easier to recycle, better carbon footprint, more green, and also could be used in applications where glass was not desirable. So poolside, beachside.
Fair. Yeah.
We've been partnered for many years with Virgin Voyages, the cruise lines. No glass on board there. So, and not on deck. You can't have glass blowing around, obviously. There's all pool decks and everything else. And they use no, minimal to no plastic on there. So aluminum's great, infinitely recyclable, and we had aluminum bottles for a while, and then just about a year ago, we transitioned to those aluminum cans, which if people do watch, they can see, and they can see them on our website. They're nice little
Yeah.
compact. They're 200 milliliter. You get about a cocktail and a half per can, almost two cocktails per can. People are like, that size. It's like, also you have to remember the ABV. So if you have a cup of ice, pretty much you're like, for example, we're on United Airlines. It'll fill that 1.5 times to 2 times comfortably. So you're getting your money's worth. And
That's a
it's like
great idea.
I could say you're having a couple cans, you'll know you're having drinks. But yeah, they're great. We're just introducing these nice 4 packs, so
Yeah, I was
which
gonna
just makes
say,
it a little bit
how
easier.
do
So
they
we
come in
can
4 packs?
it depends on the retailer. So some retailers sell them loose and one by one, which is something that we've done, which is nice to have a mix and match. And so some retailers are going to sell them in little 4 pack cubes, which are nice as well. A little bit easier on the shelf and stack up a little bit better. So it just depends. Whatever they want to do, they're welcome to crack them open and sell them that way. And of course, if you're at a venue, you're going to get the single can. But
Right.
we love always like to say, we prefer it. You can drink it straight from the can cold, but we always prefer and let we pour it straight over ice. You just don't want to risk a warm cocktail. I don't care who's making your drink. I can make your drink for you a la minute and you can watch me squeeze the lime and grab the best bottle of tequila on my back bar and agave nectar, and if I don't shake it and I hand you a warm margarita, I don't know how good it's going to be. So you want
Yeah.
that, you want a nice cold refreshing cocktail, and we're not making hot toddies in a can yet. I would love to, always tell people just pour it over ice, but you can drink it from the can. I would just make sure that it's ice cold if you're doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I may do that today. It's all on ice. It's
Do
been
it,
in the
yeah.
fridge,
Crack one open.
cooling down. What is the price point of a 4 pack or a single?
Yeah, it depends again on the retailer. I would say average for a single can is Yeah, around $4.99 ish. Some are a buck more than that, depending where you're at. So not a bad price considering the price of a craft cocktail to get one and a half drinks
$14, $15.
for $5 or $6, depending where you're at. And if you're at a venue, of course, they need to get a little bit more premium. If you're that's a liquor store, it might be $9, $10, $11. But again, that's at a hotel or something like where you're gonna,
Yeah.
as opposed to paying $20 for a drink. So yeah, it's super reasonable cost per cocktail. And if you peel back the layers, we welcome people to dive in, get into our website. We have full transparency. Look
What
at the
is your
spirit
website?
at craftthousecocktails.com.
Okay.
Look at the spirit partners that we use. We're using, it's the highest quality stuff. Our rums all come from Planere rums. Our tequila is coming from La Cofradia Distillery and Jalisco, delicious, wonderful distillery. When we're sourcing bourbon, we use a couple different sources, but great providers. We have relationships with all these people. So it's, like I said, it's real juice when you do it. It is pasteurized, of course, but it's real simple syrup. It's, so it's the ingredients that are in there are, if we're using aromatic bitters, it's Angostura bitters. Otherwise, sometimes we work with artisanal brands. So one of our new Moonlighter, we work with Brovo, one great boutique spirits producer, and use their vermouth when we needed it. Or shot for our Mai Tai. We went to Liquid Alchemist, a great industry-owned, bartender-owned.
Okay,
And
cool.
so, yeah, great. There's each ingredient is, I try to illustrate for folks. So like if we went to the liquor store and then the grocery store to buy everything, it would add up quick for a, $30-$40 bottle of booze, whatever a dozen limes cost, or, everything else that you need to make all the drinks, and then balance it to get it right.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about the brand before we do the tasting?
Check us out. Reach out to us. We love to entertain. We love to talk cocktails. You can visit us at Drink Craft House on Instagram. That's where we're most active. You can reach out to me directly at Charles Joly on Instagram. So yeah, no, it's check them out. Try cocktail. Jump on. We're on United Airlines now, and awesome partnership. They carry a couple of our drinks. So if you're flying, you can get a really fabulous
Awesome.
cocktail there. Yeah, it's a huge deal for us. As a brand, we were founded in Chicago. I'm born and raised here. United's a Chicago brand. And we work with some great local distilleries here as well for some products. So it's just a wonderful partnership, obviously, and really big for our indie brand.
What two cocktails are they the two biggest volume brands or?
No. So they're doing on basically all their U.S. flights, where they're long enough to serve on, is our Moonlighter cocktail and our espresso martini. And then on the Hawaii, like some more tropical flights, Hawaii flights, you can also get our Mai Tai, which is
Cool.
one, and
That's interesting.
that thing came out awesome. I'm super proud of that cocktail. I would toe to toe that with most bars. To be honest, Mai Tai is one that gets beat up a lot at bars, and I'm not talking about going to a great tiki bar or a great cocktail bar. Obviously, but like in general, people don't know the recipe for it. It just kind of it's not something you don't order. I would, and that's on us as guests. Don't order pizza at a French restaurant. When you're at a bar that's not a cocktail bar, don't expect them to have fresh juice or a shot or whatever it might be to make a drink like that. That's kind of a rude move. Is it? You need to kind of know where you're at as well. But the thing came out great, and it feels really like something that's made right.
Nice. Well, which one should we try?
Oh, I don't know. We can start. I mean, the Moscow Mule is always a good place to start. That one now, obviously, everybody knows what Moscow Mule is. That's had its moment, but you got to understand, in 2011, that was one of our original drinks. That was a brand. It's an old cocktail, goes back to the 30s, but it was newly discovered, I would say, by society at large at that time. And so it was very, very hot. I mean, I don't know if you remember back in the early 2010s, at some places when you would get the copper mug, they would take your ID because people stole the mugs so often. And
That's funny.
they're expensive mug. You're like $5-10
They are
for a mug
expensive
or
mugs.
whatever it costs for the bar. they're sick of people stealing their mugs all the time, ending up in people's purses. So they take your damn ID when you got a Moscow Mule. It was, so popular. Yeah, I'd throw a little ice in there
Yeah.
and get to
Got a little
sipping.
fizz.
Yeah, it's carbonated, of course, and we make our ginger beer from scratch. It's our own recipe. A little kiss of cinnamon in there, and then
Yeah.
vodka lime. It's just a nice, refreshing, long drink. A
It's
little bit of
very
spice, a little kick.
refreshing.
I think one thing you see on a lot of our all of our cocktails, really, really nice aroma, and I think that is a lot of brands miss that, and that is the utmost importance. It's also why I like it to be in a cup, because you can get the aroma better than you can from the little hole in the can. You
Yeah.
get the bouquet can come up on it, and almost, like taste. The taste is a combination of what is happening on our tongues, and then what is happening in our nose, and what's going on in our palate. This is all this. It's not just taste. Your tongue's only picking up sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Your tongue doesn't know the difference between a lemon, lime, and the orange. It knows sour. It's your nose that pulls it together and is discerning the flavor of those two or three or whatever it is, like the difference between those. You don't have an orange receptor on your tongue. You don't have a lemon receptor. You have a sour receptor. So it understands tart, but the aroma, you can't go wrong. There's no
Yeah.
ginger receptor on your tongue. The only reason you're drinking ginger is because your nose is working.
Well, I will say that this is for me the best Moscow Mule I've ever had because you made your own ginger beer. For me, I love ginger. I can eat ginger, I love it.
Yep.
I make my own ginger ale at home because I don't want the sugar. But they make it so strong that it's not a balanced cocktail mixer. Whereas yours is a balanced cocktail.
I
Whereas
appreciate that.
that heavy spicy ginger flavor, that you get in ginger beer is to me is overpowering. And
Yeah,
I don't
there's a
care
balance
for it
with it.
as a cocktail,
There's a
like in
balance for it.
general.
Our earliest recipes in 2000, our first batches of our Moscow Mule back in 2013 that hit the market, were so spicy they'd make you sneeze. I'm not joking. Legitimately, it would tickle your nose and you'd sneeze. And I love that. I want it to bite. I want to feel it bite the back of my throat. I want that, but we understood that there's a range of palates, and
There's a range of palates.
that is the learning curve. So we need to find that middle ground and make everybody happy, make our ginger
Yeah.
lovers happy. So you're not just drinking a flabby ginger ale,
Yeah.
and but not also burn people out. Same thing with this when we did the spicy margarita. You got to find that middle ground. I want mine. I like heat. I want that piquant, but you can't fry people out, So you gotta
Yeah.
find that. Some people are super sensitive to that flavor, so you find that middle ground, and that's part of I think the bartender.
Yeah, but I think the other thing that struck me with this cocktail is it does have tart at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of lime in it. Yeah, it's a key
And
ingredient. It's a key ingredient. And a Moscow Mule is a simple drink, but a Moscow Mule is not just, if you just take vodka and ginger beer and dump them together, it's a pretty flabby drink. Even if you were
yeah.
to crack a can of ginger beer and you just pour vodka in it, it's imbalanced. You're missing it. You don't have any real acidity, and so you need that squeeze of lime to bring in acidity. So your spirit, your sweet, and your acid are living harmoniously together.
Yeah. It's
So a
great.
seemingly simple cocktail, but I mean, I've had a shitty gin and tonic, right? Like a 2 ingredient drink, three if you include the little wedge of lime or whatever you're gonna squeeze in there, Like you can have imbalance that drink if your mixer to spirit ratio is off. So even the simplest drinks, I would argue the simplest drinks might even be more prone to being a victim of imbalance because there's fewer ingredients and less to hide behind. So you really got to get
Yeah.
those things living right. I mean, look at it. Ask most bartenders, like professional bartenders, what they drink. Like when they're like, I would, to the Tommy's margarita, 3 ingredient margarita, a classic daiquiri. It's like one of my own go-tos, 3 ingredients. I mean, I throw a dash of bitters in there, so 4 ingredients. I like to blend my rums up. So if you want to call that more than one ingredient, but it's hard. It's rum, lime, and sugar, but getting that right. So again, that's the bartender's trade.
Yeah, no, 100%. Do you want to try another one?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever you're sipping over there. What do you got? I would say maybe the Moonlighter's a good place to go. Switch to another vodka cocktail. Yeah, the Moonlighter's a cool one. So this is the first original cocktail. Everything we've done is either a riff on a classic or a classic cocktail up to this point, because we want to, people are still learning what Crafthouse Cocktails is, let alone us trying to, introduce them to a drink they've never heard of. We've always been a little left to center with our drinks. We didn't have a margarita for a long time. We did a Paloma. And going back again, you have to go back, give us, the 12 years back that we launched. The Paloma was not being made in a lot of places. We did a Gold Rush for a while, which is a whiskey sour basically with honey. This Moonlighter is a fully original cocktail. I created this for the Emmys. I'm done the cocktails for the Emmys for the last decade, and go out to LA and design the drinks for that. I designed the drinks for the
That's
Oscars.
cool.
And so this drink was designed for the 2024 Emmys, and then adapted it for a bar that I worked on in New York last year. And then I was like, you know what? This might be the one that we can put into a can because it is a crowd pleaser. So it's a vodka highball, spritzy vodka sparkling cocktail with some acidity, with some balanced sweetness, lavender, and
Yeah.
chamomile. So it's a
I've never
really
tasted anything like this before.
I guess the most technical. I would call it a kind of a clarified Tom Collins,
Yeah.
or a clarified vodka Collins with chamomile and lavender. And we put on the canned vodka spritz. It's just so people can digest it and understand, um, you know what it is. Just make it a little bit more relatable. People are going to be like, "What the hell's in a Tom Collins?"
Right.
Again, not their job to know what that is. But yeah, this is crushing, and it's been super well received. This cocktail just got a double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, the Tasting
Wow.
Alliance. That is a huge honor. That is the biggest, the most prestigious, longest running blind tasting competition for spirits and now for RTD cocktails, prepared cocktails. And we won 4 double gold medals this year, which is
Jeez.
huge for us, and kind of unprecedented in the category to get that much hardware. And to get the double gold, it means every judge at the tasting table on their own, before any discussion was had, scored it as a gold. And then so they went around the table and the gold, gold, gold. They're like, well, shit, this is a double gold. We all like it. And they all got 97 points out of 100. So
Wow.
it's
Which
huge.
4 brands?
Our Mai Tai, our Moscow Mule got double gold. Our Pineapple Daiquiri got double gold. What the heck was the 4th one? Our espresso martini, everything got a medal. It's escaping me with the fourth
It's
double
okay.
gold.
No worries. We can put them in the show notes if you want.
Yeah, for sure.
But that is congratulations. That's huge. Honestly, I gotta tell you, these are some of the best canned cocktails I've ever had.
Thank you. Our 4 cocktails. I named them all. I just can't count. The Moscow Mule, the Moonlighter, the Daiquiri, and the Mai Tai were the 4 that got double gold.
Okay. That is awesome. I mean, I'll be honest with you. These 2 cocktails are blowing me away. This Moonlighter is amazing. Like, I mean,
Super sessionable.
it is.
Real crowd
My
pleaser.
wife is gonna love this.
Yeah, nice. And that was kept clear when I designed that drink. It was served in this tall Collins glass, and it had a big spear of ice that had custom etching on it, and which was really cool. This company called Abstract Ice made these custom cubes so you could see the beautiful etching on the ice in the tall Collins glass. So we wanted to make sure that the cocktail, it was not cloudy.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
So what is it, the Bianco vermouth, you think, that kind of gives it that little tinge of sweet at the end?
I think it's a little bit from the vermouth. There's a little sweetness in that vermouth. It's a balance, like very middle of the road.
It's not a lot. It's just it's like the emulsifier.
There's a little simple syrup in the cocktail as well. There is acidity in the cocktail. I think sometimes even chamomile, although there's zero sweetness, obviously, if you make a cup of chamomile tea, The floral note there can sometimes even come off, like floral can come off with a rounded, almost lightness to it that can have like the sweet or in our head. It's not a harsh flavor. It's a soft flavor. It's a soft aroma. So yeah.
Do we want to do one?
Sure. Why don't you take it across and maybe the Mai Tai would be a little tropical. And I would say that one for sure. You want to do a nice big cup of ice and let it hit it. And that cocktail evolves in the glass, and it's well served by the
Hey, look,
ice
it
kind of
matches my
melting in it.
outfit.
Yeah. And we design the
Okay.
cocktails and we balance them for that purpose to make sure that the first sip on there is delicious, and in 5 minutes it's not a watered down mess. Obviously, if you leave it sit for a half an hour, an hour,
Yeah.
and all the ice melts, we can't. You put 4 ounces of water in it for melted ice. You're going to water the drink down. In any cocktail will do that. You could water down a 120 proof whiskey doing that. Yeah, she got our Mai Tai. This was actually driven by, and I was super excited to have the reason to do this drink. This was driven by this is a special request uh, from United Airlines for this. Able to go back to our friends from Plannery Rums and get some gorgeous rums for this beauty. I work with our friends from Liquid Alchemist for their orgeat, which is an almond syrup, and make this cocktail really great. I love a tiki drink. Mai Tai is kind of the iconic tiki
Yeah.
cocktail. Um, and it's just it just gets beat up, and it gets people put all kinds of stuff in this at the bars. You'll see for some reason grenadine, or I don't know, people don't know what to put in it, so they just start grabbing bottles.
Cherries, pineapple.
Yeah, and it's that if you want to throw that on the garnish, fine, but it's a rum sour. It's basically a fancy daiquiri with the addition of curacao and a little bit of that almond syrup. So you get that great nuttiness and a little bit, even a little bit of floral from the almond. If you think about like almond pastries that get that, like the almond extract flavor as kind of a unique flavor. This is not almond extract. This is real or shot. Um, so yeah, it's just a great, when it's done right, it's a great tiki cocktail. I think people, like I said, I think tiki gets a bad rap too because people just think they're going to be sugar bombs.
Yeah.
But I think you got to balance it. It's the citrus and everything else needs to balance.
Yeah. No, 100%. Well, it's awesome. And you can see that it's just it's not as clear as the other ones. It's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like a
yeah, and that can
light
might even,
amber.
yeah, and you might want to give that, the Mai Tai a little turn because the orgeat does have some weight to it compared to the other ingredients. So you give her a little turn
Okay.
and just to make sure everything's integrated. But if you pour a whole can into
Yeah.
your cup, it'll do it. And as you take sips of it, it'll self integrate as well. But
What is orgeat?
it's
I've been seeing it more and more.
almond syrup.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to obviously be careful for nut allergies on there. Um, or if you have an allergy to almonds, obviously do not drink this. It's on right on the can and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
classic. Really, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the tiki movement, no one would know what it is. It would never have been around. But it's been an ingredient. You're going back to the origins of the tiki movement here. In the late 30s into the early 40s with the cocktails. It's one of the icons.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's really good. Well, should we move on to, I mean, I could sit here and taste them all, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to sit here because they're just so delicious. I want to drink them.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm
all right.
definitely giving the vodka
You
ones
and the
to
wife
my
have
wife.
happy hour.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have happy hour. I can hear she's vacuuming right now. Exciting stuff. But let's shift it back to you. And is there anything else about the brand that you want to talk about before we kind of shift over?
I don't think so. I think we talked a lot
Okay.
about it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I said, if folks have questions, we're an open book. Hit us up, visit us online, visit us on our social media channels, and most importantly, grab a can and crack them.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Let us do the work. You do the fun part. Well, we
Well,
think
I
so.
love
The
it.
work is the fun part for us too, but
Yeah.
the drinking is the sipping them, enjoying them with friends is the best part.
Yes. Sipping them by the pool.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
pool, the fireplace, wherever you are.
wherever you
Always,
are.
any
Well,
time's a good time for a cocktail.
I am super impressed.
Thanks.
Congratulations on
Yeah,
making cocktails for the Emmys and Grammys, or Oscars. That's really cool.
yeah, it's
That's
been
really
great.
impressive. I love it. That's so cool. So, do you have any mentors or anybody that kind of helped you along your journey
Yeah,
that you want to
tons.
mention?
Oh yeah, this doesn't happen on its own. There's a woman by the name of Bridget Albert that opened a lot of doors for me and taught a lot of us in Chicago and help us refine and focus our learning. Really gave us a platform. Has always been our cheerleader. Still a dear friend. Saw her very recently. Still in contact all the time. There's been so many. I was fortunate again to get in on an early time, so a lot of these, the books I was reading, those authors were accessible still, and some of the you got to give credit to the people that bridged the gap in the dark days when next to nobody was squeezing a lemon for a drink.
Right.
The Dale DeGroffs of the world who kept the candle burning while drinks were pretty corn syrupy and artificial. They were kind of quietly doing their things. So yeah, like a lot of great people, but Bridget was definitely the one that was the most impactful for me as a young bartender who was shifting into a cocktail focus. And I just fell in love with it and ran with it. Really, I mean, I still do. The love affair is still well in place. I'm still hungry for knowledge. I still love to teach and learn and visit distilleries and taste new spirit.
Yeah. What about any resources, whether it's
So
professional or
yeah, for
otherwise?
sure, bartenders. I've been a member of the United States Bartenders Guild since 2007. That's a great resource. There's chapters in every state. It's a nonprofit organization. You know, be a member costs maybe $100, $150 a year or something. There's always great meetings and events and learning opportunities and networking, and they do great for the community. When the pandemic hit, they quickly became outposts for brands to donate to their 501c, and then that money got allocated out to bartenders who were out of work very, very quickly. Millions of dollars was taken in, processed, and then made it to bartenders. So they do a lot of great work. There's some breast cancer charities that are run through there that will, help bartenders with medical needs. So they do a lot of great work besides the educational and everything else. Tales of the Cocktail Foundation. Tales of the Cocktail is probably
Yeah.
the largest bar and cocktail trade show conference in the world in New Orleans every year. Certainly the biggest in the U.S. And I think the most fun in the world, probably. There's a lot of great ones: Berlin Bar Convent in Germany and London Bar Show. All over the world, these things exist. But Tales is kind of the granddaddy. Tales of the Cocktail. So much great information down there. Uh, you keep your head on straight for the week, and you might just learn something down there, but you're gonna have a great time and um, a lot of great networking. There's so many great, now the resources are vast. Great books written by so many amazing bartenders. Jeffrey Morgenthaler's always a great resource. Jim Meehan, one of the founders of PDT in New York, some great writer. There's dozens of books now and great podcasts out there. And there's so much information. Whether you want to be a professional bartender, just make drinks at home. But I think the enthusiasts are some of my favorite to talk to and to work with. I've got my own line of barware and glassware that shares the Crafthouse name. It's called Crafthouse by Fortessa. And we sell that stuff in places where more home enthusiasts would be, like Williams
Yeah.
Sonoma and on Amazon or whatever it might be, Crate and Barrel and things like that. And those are people that are home enthusiasts that are getting, doing this sort of thing for their own parties or making cocktails for their friends.
That's awesome. Yeah, I interviewed Tony Abuganim,
Yeah, he's
and
a good. He's an old friend.
yeah, he's a good guy. And he sent me his stuff, and I'll tell you, just having the proper tools just
Sure. Yeah,
makes it more of a not a journey, not it's more of an experience.
for sure. Yeah,
And
I always
it's
recommend.
fun.
And I do. I agree. If you're
Yeah.
get into it, get yourself some nice tools for sure, but don't let that
Yeah.
stop you from starting.
Yeah.
Because you don't need a single bar
You
tool
don't
to
need it.
get mixing. You can grab a mason jar and a lid, or a coffee mug with a sealed lid, and a measuring cup out of
Yeah.
your kitchen drawer, and you can get started and use a chopstick to stir with. I promise you, I've made cocktails with all those things on the fly when something wasn't at hand. And then, as you build your collection, start to buy some nice bar tools. I'm certainly not telling people not to support our brands, not to support my brands or Tony's
Yeah.
brands or anybody else's, but you want
Yeah.
that. You do want that stuff eventually. The right tool for the job helps, but don't say, oh, I don't have a cocktail shaker, I'm not making cocktails at home. No way. You got sugar in the cabinet, make some simple syrup, squeeze a
Yep.
lemon, and let's get going. That's all you need.
Yep. 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 I love making my own simple syrup.
Sure. Yeah. Why would you buy sugar water?
Yeah.
Make it
I mean,
yourself. Takes 10
and
minutes.
you can infuse it
10
so
minutes,
easily
10
with
minutes doing
flavor.
it the slow way. I don't know what the hell you're
Yeah.
doing. Like making 10 minutes, but anyways, yeah, for sure.
It reminds me I need to fill the hummingbird feeder, so I got to make
There
some
you go.
anyway.
There you go. Everybody's getting a car.
Yeah. What about any pain points that you've overcome or want to talk about?
Yeah.
And
I don't know if we have enough.
three-tiered,
Yeah, I don't know if we have
yeah,
enough
I
time
know.
for that. I mean, there's been any independent business. I don't care what you're doing, and is going to have ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster, and we're in a really wonderful place now. We try not to make the same mistakes twice. We try to be mentors to other young brands when they come to us. It's we focus on moving forward and trying to get better and producing great cocktails. That's all. Stay true to our brand identity and do what we do well.
Yeah. No, I agree. What about your outlook for the industry or for your brand specifically in the industry?
I'm butterflies and bunny rabbits. Let's go. I got a rosy outlook. You know what I mean? You got to keep
Yeah,
manifest that shit, right? Like
that's
it's
right,
I mean, we're
manifesting.
doing good work, and we're doing what we know how to do. We're doing what we believe in. And
Yeah.
you've got to believe that other people will hopefully find that your drinks are delicious, and also agree with make sure that find that it's a good prospect for them financially, and that it makes sense for their whether you're an individual buying this from a store to bring home, that it's the right cocktail for you, and that we're the bartenders you want making your cocktails, or whether you're a venue who's using us, or a bar, or a entertainment venue, or an airline, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that we're the right cocktail for you. We think we are.
Yeah, well, I can ensure all the listeners that these are some of the best cocktails I've ever had especially in a can. I mean, they really do taste like it's fresh from the bar.
It's the goal.
And
That is exactly the
that
goal.
is really hard to accomplish, like really, really hard, because most companies don't quite get there.
Yeah,
So you can
yeah. I
tell there's
appreciate
a
that.
craft
Well, thank you.
behind someone with the real craft behind this.
Well, we
That,
appreciate it. Thank you for that.
yeah, that really formulated it, made it exactly right, got all the different flavors to combine and kind of emulate together to make it a very balanced cocktail. And I'm telling you, that Moonlighter, that that's the bomb right there. I've never tasted anything like it, and it is just, you got to try. Everybody has to try this.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Appreciate you being a cheerleader.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to play a little game and I'll let you go?
Let's do it.
If you were a cocktail, what would you be?
I'd be a pineapple daiquiri. You might suspect one thing and then get something totally different. Got a fun side, got a classic side. Happy to see a beach every once in a while. I don't know.
A little sweet.
That cocktail's in our lineup, and it was my baby. Like that's the drink that I drink after work, with the Plannery Stiggins rum. So that's my drink for sure. Went
That's
down to
awesome.
Cuba, made daiquiris at La Floridita, the home of the daiquiri. So yeah, it's like my baby.
Wow, that's pretty cool. We went to Cuba. Interesting place. Had a great time. We were just there on a cruise for like 6 hours.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful country.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie? I would say one of my favorite movies is The Shining, Stanley Kubrick, a Stephen King novel, obviously. I mean, everyone knows what The Shining is, but I love it. I think it's a beautiful film. It satisfies the horror genre for me. Cool, stands up, whatever, however many years it is later, 40 years later, plus 50 years
Fair.
later.
Yeah. What about movie line? Is there a movie line from a movie you like? Not really.
I'm not that much of a buff to quote movies. Eh, More guilty of quoting, to give my age away a little bit, quoting Seinfeld or The Simpsons, which probably slips into more than any movie.
Do you have one you want to share?
Not offhand. It more just falls into those like, it's moments where you have to answer, or it
Yeah.
slips into comedy, or like bad sarcasm or something. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah. Understood. Understood. All right. What is your favorite place to travel to?
Man, hard to name just one. I love Spain, southern Spain in particular. I am a big fan of anything Mediterranean. So every city I've ever been to, anywhere in that whole connected, bodies of water has always made me very happy, whether it's been on the coast of Spain or all the way into, keep moving east and even hit, Istanbul or Greece. Put me on the coast of warm waters with food that's made so fresh and simply with just olive oil and salt and pepper, and I'm happy.
Yeah. You seem like a real tropical guy. I'm surprised you're in Chicago.
I I travel plenty. I love to get down to Mexico as well, and I think Mexico is incredible. Great
Yeah.
people, great energy, great heart, great food, great drink.
Yeah. 100%. I've had some great experiences there too. Well, as Howard would say, you've said it all. We've talked about a lot, and I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking about your cocktails. I really, really like your cocktails. I'm not bullshitting. Like this, these are
No, we
serious
appreciate that.
cocktails.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Like,
We always say we take a cocktail seriously, but not ourselves too seriously.
yeah,
And that's it. We do all that work on the back end so people can just crack the cans and sip away.
yeah, because I'll get bottles out that I have around the house and some mixers and some syrups or whatever, and I'll just stare at it and go, I don't know what to do. I don't have that ability to just, and sometimes I'll get the inspiration and I'll vary a like Jamaican 10 speed or something, which is kind of fun to make. If I put pressure on myself to do it, I can't do it. It's so
It just
annoying.
makes
So I will
perfect.
let you do that. Yeah, I don't
We're
have
here
the
for you.
10,000 hours for sure.
We're here for you. Oh yeah.
Well, I wish you all continued success. I'm very, very
Thank you so
excited
much.
about you guys and your products and what you're doing, and it will certainly be a staple around here.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for chatting, and thanks for sharing our products with your listeners. We're happy to join you, and happy
Yeah,
cocktailing out there as well.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think we're gonna go sit on the lanai and enjoy a cocktail.
Perfect. I love
Why
that.
not? Well, I'm gonna say goodbye, and I am gonna let you get back to your day.
All right. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Produced by Fedora J Productions. Tune in next Thursday and have a great week.